Christmas morning 2020, downtown Nashville should have been quiet, peaceful. Instead, at 6:30 a.m., an RV parked on 2nd Avenue exploded and forced to damage over 40 buildings. The blast was heard for miles. One man died in that explosion, and he did it on purpose. His name was Anthony Warner, and in the weeks before he turned himself into a human bomb, he'd been sending bizarre packages to old friends. Inside those packages were rambling letters about lizard people controlling humanity, about 5G towers being weapons, about how he needed to break free from what he called the reincarnation loop. Warner genuinely believed that shape-shifting reptilian aliens had infiltrated our government, enslaved humanity, and were using technology to trap our souls. This wasn't some edge case lunatic either. Millions of people share versions of this exact belief. So how did we get here? How did a theory about blood-drinking lizard politicians become so widespread that it's driving people to violence? The modern reptilian conspiracy has one name attached to it more than any other: David Icke. If you've heard about lizard people in the last 20 years, you've probably heard his ideas, whether you realize it or not. Icke wasn't always a conspiracy theorist. Back in the day, he was a professional soccer player in the UK until arthritis ended his career at 21. After that, he became a sports broadcaster, then a Green Party spokesman. Seemed like a normal enough trajectory. But somewhere in the early 90s, things took a hard turn. Icke started claiming he was the son of God, that he could channel ancient wisdom, that the world was controlled by interdimensional beings. The Green Party kicked him out, the British media laughed him off television. But Icke didn't go away, he doubled down. In 1999, he published a book called The Biggest Secret, and that's when the reptilian theory really took off. According to Icke, there's a race of beings from a star system called Alpha Draconis. These aren't just aliens, they're interdimensional reptilians who've been here for thousands of years, manipulating human civilization from the shadows. They can shapeshift into human form, or at least create convincing disguises. And here's the kicker: they drink human blood to maintain those disguises. Icke claims they've interbred with humans to create hybrid bloodlines, families that have ruled Earth for centuries. He names names too: the British royal family, reptilians, the Rothschilds, reptilians, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama. All reptilians are controlled by them. According to Icke, every major political dynasty, every powerful banking family, every secret society, it all traces back to these cold-blooded overlords pulling the strings. And if you think this theory stayed confined to obscure internet forums, think again. When COVID hit in 2020, Icke's ideas exploded into the mainstream. He started claiming the pandemic wasn't caused by a virus at all. According to him, it was 5G cell towers. The towers were emitting frequencies that made people sick, and the global elite were using the pandemic as cover to roll out a totalitarian new world order. Vaccines, mind control, lockdowns, conditioning humanity for permanent enslavement. It sounds absurd, but millions ate it up. Icke's videos racked up millions of views before platforms started banning him. Twitter suspended his account, Facebook purged his pages. YouTube took down his channel, Phil. But here's the thing about conspiracy theorists: getting banned doesn't discredit them, it makes them martyrs. To believers, those bans were proof that Icke was telling the truth. Why else would the elites try so hard to silence him? Now let's talk about Anthony Warner again, because his story shows just how far this rabbit hole goes. Warner wasn't some random guy who stumbled onto Icke's videos one day and snapped. He'd been obsessed with reptilian theories for years. Friends said he'd spend entire weekends camping in state parks, claiming he was hunting for lizard people hiding in the woods. He bought infrared cameras, convinced they'd reveal the reptilians' true forms. He talked about reincarnation traps, about how our souls were being recycled by these beings to keep us enslaved. In his mind, blowing up that AT&T building wasn't terrorism, it was liberation. He thought he was striking a blow against the infrastructure the reptilians use to control us. The tragedy is Warner genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. And he's not the only one. There have been other incidents, smaller but just as disturbing, where people acted violently because they believed their targets were reptilians in disguise. The theory isn't just weird, it's dangerous. But it gets worse. In 2024, the consequences for Icke himself started piling up. He's now banned from entering 26 European countries. The Dutch government extended his ban indefinitely, calling him a threat to public order. Germany won't let him in. Neither will Switzerland, Poland, or Austria. These aren't symbolic gestures either. Authorities genuinely worry that his presence incites extremism. And Icke's response? He claims it's all proof of the conspiracy. Of course they're trying to stop him. Of course they're shutting down his events. He's exposing them, and they're scared. To his followers, every ban, every deplatforming, every country that refuses him entry just confirms what he's been saying all along. The elites are terrified of the truth getting out. It's a perfect closed loop. Any evidence against the theory becomes evidence for it. So where did this all start? You might think the reptilian conspiracy is a modern internet age invention, but its roots go way deeper than that. Back in the 1800s, a Russian philosopher named Helena Blavatsky wrote a book called The Secret Doctrine. It was supposed to be non-fiction, a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science. In reality, most of it was made-up nonsense. Blavatsky claimed there were prehistoric root races that lived in lost civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria. One of these races, the Dragon Men. She described them as advanced beings with reptilian features who preceded modern humans. Sound familiar? Blavatsky's ideas have been thoroughly debunked, but the concept of ancient reptilian beings stuck around. Science fiction writers in the early 1900s ran with it. Robert E. Howard created the Serpent Men in his Conan stories. H.P. Lovecraft wrote about underground reptilian races in his horror fiction. These were just stories, but they planted the seed. And then there's the darker connection. Icke has repeatedly endorsed the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a notorious anti-Semitic forgery from the early 1900s. The protocols claimed there was a secret Jewish conspiracy to control the world through banking, media, and politics. It's been proven to be a fake, a piece of propaganda created by the Russian secret police, but Icke insists it's real, or at least partially real. He claims the Rothschilds, a prominent Jewish banking family, are actually reptilians pretending to be Jewish. In his worldview, he's not criticizing real Jewish people, just the lizard imposters. It's a flimsy defense, and plenty of critics have pointed out that his theories are just repackaged anti-Semitism with a sci-fi coat of paint. The language changes, but the scapegoating is the same. Powerful Jewish families become powerful reptilian families, but the hatred underneath doesn't budge. Even Dracula plays a role here. Think about it, a powerful aristocrat who drinks blood to survive, who can shapeshift, who controls others through mesmerism. Bram Stoker's vampire isn't a reptile, but the archetypes overlap. Add in the fact that dragon mythology exists in nearly every culture on Earth, from Europe to China to Mesoamerica, and you've got fertile ground for this kind of theory to take root. Humans have always been fascinated and terrified by serpents. We've built myths around them for thousands of years. Icke just took all that cultural baggage and turned it into a modern political conspiracy. Now, if you're a believer in this theory, you're probably wondering how to spot a reptilian. Don't worry, the internet's got you covered. According to various reptilian hunter websites, there are telltale signs. Red hair, suspicious. Low blood pressure, definitely a lizard. Green or hazel eyes that seem to change color, reptilian for sure. Unexplained scars on your body, that's your human disguise malfunctioning. Are you really good at hearing or seeing things? Reptile senses. Do you love space, science, or astronomy? That's because you're secretly an alien. Do you feel like you don't quite belong to the human race? Congrats, you're probably a shapeshifter. The list is so broad that it basically applies to half the population, but believers insist these are legitimate markers. There's also the case of Herbert Schirmer, a police officer from Nebraska who claimed he was abducted by reptilian aliens in 1967. Schirmer was having weird dreams and flashbacks, so he went to a hypnotist. Under hypnosis, he described being taken aboard a UFO by beings with reptilian features. They had scaly skin, silted eyes, and a military-style emblem of a winged serpent on their uniforms. Schirmer's story became one of the most famous alleged reptilian encounters, and believers still cite it as evidence today. Skeptics, of course, point out that hypnosis is notoriously unreliable and that memories recovered under hypnosis are often false or heavily influenced by suggestion. But for true believers, Schirmer's account is proof that these beings are real and have been visiting Earth for decades. Believers also love analyzing video footage of politicians and celebrities looking for what they call glitches. They'll freeze frame a video and point to a weird shadow, a strange reflection in someone's eyes, or an odd facial expression claiming it's evidence of a disguise slipping. There are entire YouTube channels and forums dedicated to this. People spend hours scrubbing through C-SPAN footage, looking for the moment a senator's eyes supposedly turn reptilian for a split second. It's the modern version of seeing faces in clouds, except instead of harmless fun, it's fueling a belief system that's led to real-world violence. Then there's the bloodline argument. Believers love pointing out that many US presidents are distantly related to each other. And that part's actually true. Barack Obama is a distant cousin of both George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Franklin D. Roosevelt was related to 11 other presidents. Hell, if you go back far enough, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are 19th cousins. Genealogy nerds have traced these connections, and they're legitimate. But here's the thing, that's just how ancestry works. Go back far enough, and nearly everyone of European descent is related to Charlemagne. It doesn't mean there's a secret reptilian bloodline. It just means powerful families and small colonial populations intermarried a lot. But to conspiracy theorists, these connections are smoking gun evidence of an ancient plan to keep power within certain families. So why do people believe this? Why does a theory with zero physical evidence have 12 million American believers? Psychologists say it's about control. The world is chaotic. Bad things happen randomly. Politicians lie. Corporations exploit us. The wealthy get richer while everyone else struggles. That's genuinely upsetting, and it's hard to know how to fix it. But if you believe there's a shadowy cabal of lizard people orchestrating everything, suddenly the chaos has a cause. There's a villain. There's something you can fight against, even if that fight is just posting on forums and doing your own research. It gives people a sense of purpose, a feeling that they've figured out something the sheep haven't. And once you're in that mindset, it's almost impossible to get out. Every piece of evidence against the theory gets reinterpreted as part of the cover-up. You can't win an argument with someone who believes the entire system is rigged to hide the truth. COVID supercharged this dynamic. People were scared, isolated, and desperate for answers. The pandemic felt random and uncontrollable. Exactly the kind of chaos that drives conspiracy thinking. So when Icke started saying it wasn't a virus, it was 5G towers and a plot by reptilian elites to enslave humanity, millions latched onto it. It gave them an enemy, a narrative, and a community of fellow believers. Suddenly, they weren't just scared and powerless. They were part of a resistance, warriors fighting against an invisible enemy. Never mind that there's zero scientific evidence linking 5G to illness. Never mind that virologists around the world confirmed COVID-19 as a naturally occurring virus. To believers, those scientists were either duped or part of the conspiracy. There's also a spiritual angle that hooks a lot of people. Icke talks about reincarnation loops, about how reptilians trap human souls in an endless cycle of rebirth to harvest our energy. It's a mix of New Age spirituality, Eastern religion, and sci-fi horror. For people who already believe in reincarnation or feel disconnected from mainstream religion, this narrative offers answers. It explains why life feels like suffering. It's not random. It's designed that way by malevolent beings feeding off our pain. Anthony Warner bought into this version hard. He believed blowing up that building would help free souls from the reincarnation trap. In his mind, he was a hero, not a terrorist. But here's what science actually tells us. In 2013, researchers discovered that humans have specific neurons in our brains that respond exclusively to snakes. These neurons were crucial for our ancestors, who had to watch out for venomous snakes in the wild. It was a survival mechanism. Thousands of years later, we've still got those neurons, and they make us instinctively wary of anything reptilian. Another study in 2014 used EEG scans to measure brain activity when people looked at pictures of snakes. The results were clear. Most people have an automatic negative reaction. We're evolutionarily wired to distrust reptiles. So is it really surprising that a conspiracy theory about evil lizard overlords resonates with so many people? Our brains are literally primed to see reptiles as threats. Combine that with distrust of authority, a chaotic world, and a charismatic guy like Ike telling you it's all connected, and you've got the perfect recipe for mass belief in something completely absurd. And let's be real, there's never been any physical evidence. No bodies, no DNA, no spacecraft, no underground layers full of lizard people. Believers will point to cryptid sightings like the Lizard Man of South Carolina or the Loveland Frog, but those stories always follow the same pattern. Someone sees something weird in the dark, reports a humanoid reptile, and then nothing, no follow-up, no clear photos, no specimens. It's the same problem UFO researchers run into. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and blurry photos taken at midnight don't cut it. If there really were millions of reptilians living among us, someone would have found concrete proof by now. A body, a scale, something, but there's nothing. The real danger here isn't that lizard people are real, it's that millions of people believe they are, and that belief is warping their view of reality. When you think your political opponents aren't just wrong, but literally inhuman monsters, compromise becomes impossible. When you think every institution is run by evil shapeshifters, you stop trusting anything, and when you think the only way to fight back is through drastic action, well, you end up with guys like Anthony Warner blowing up buildings on Christmas morning. The reptilian conspiracy isn't just ridiculous, it's corrosive. It erodes shared reality, makes people paranoid and angry, and in the worst cases, it inspires violence. David Icke's been banned from dozens of countries now. His social media accounts are gone, but his ideas, they're still spreading. You can find reptilian conspiracy content all over the internet. It's merged with QAnon, with anti-vax movements, with election denial. The specifics change, but the core stays the same. There's a secret elite, they're not really human, and they're out to get you. It's a story as old as time, just with a modern sci-fi twist. And as long as people feel powerless and scared, theories like this will keep finding new believers. So here's the thing. There are real problems in the world. Elites do lie. Governments do cover things up. Corporations do exploit people. But the solution isn't to invent a race of blood-drinking lizard overlords and blame them for everything. The solution is to demand accountability, transparency, and justice within the systems we actually have. It's harder than believing in reptilians. It's messier, more complicated, and there's no single villain you can point to. But it's real, and that's what separates rational skepticism from paranoid conspiracy thinking. One asks hard questions and demands evidence. The other fills in the blanks with fantasy and calls it truth. Anthony Warner thought he was fighting evil. Instead, he became a cautionary tale about what happens when conspiracy thinking goes too far. And somewhere out there, David Icke's still convinced he's the one telling the truth. The rest of us, we're just trying to figure out where reality ends and delusion begins. That's it for today, guys. If you don't want to be a reptilian, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and YouTube thinks you would love this video, so also check this video one time. It will be worth it, I bet. Thank you for watching. We will meet again with a new conspiracy theory video.